very happy to have everybody here. And so for all of you listening or logging in, we welcome you. Thank you for joining us. And we encourage everybody, please go ahead, and I'll make a couple of reminders as we get in here. I see people keep coming in. Please go ahead and ask questions here in the message bar. And we've got 45 minutes together. And I'm going to start by kind of going around. I'll start go with Guy, Scott, Mark, and then Dale, just kind of asking, what have your businesses done? What have been the biggest changes as a result of COVID? What would you say have been the most beneficial and some of the most negative changes? What have been the biggest challenges because of COVID? And we'll start with you, Guy.
Yeah, Ian. Okay, great. And thanks to you and the SBOA for putting this on today. It's very professional and impressive, and thanks for inviting me to participate. Much appreciated.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. So sure. Thank you. When you think about COVID, there's, and I'll talk fast. This will probably be my longest response out of any questions you would ask. There are three things that at Cubesmart we did that made a big difference this year, all related to COVID. First, the fact that we developed and implemented and rolled out a contactless rental program. We call it Smart Rental. We announced on April 3rd that we'd rolled it out nationally to all the stores in our portfolio. That's a big deal, and it was necessary, and it's made a big difference. Been very helpful in throughout COVID. The other thing, something that folks might not think about, and it was really behind the scenes, would be our marketing department realized pretty quickly, pretty early on, that social media usage, streaming services usage, even desktop computer usage was changing completely in the middle of COVID when people were working from home. So our marketing department was able to recognize those items, shift some of the planned spend, some of the planned campaigns, in certain markets move away from some of the out-of-home billboards or bus stops or the side of bus panels and even direct mail, and focus more on getting in front of people on social media and streaming services, and even adapting the paid search campaign. So number one is Smart Rental, contactless rental. Number two would be marketing being able to pivot, and then I think the other thing that we've seen is the larger or more professional management platforms have the ability to make change and recognize what needs to be done, and then control those changes in a much quicker way than some of the smaller guys. And that's a little bit counterintuitive in a way. But one thing we saw early on was this COVID situation, the pandemic, was not going to be managed nationally by the president. It was going to be governors, mayors, city councils making decisions and putting out mandates on how we could operate and could we be open and what we had to do differently. And so at Cubesmart, we created a committee, and it included folks from legal, risk management, operations, HR, and so forth. And they met every single day for months, looking at each situation wherever we operate and determining how we should respond. And by doing that, instead of taking a national or more global approach like some of the other operators may have done, we were able to manage our business locally and more individually. And so those three things, I think, we're most proud of at Cubesmart.
It looks like we may have lost. Are you guys seeing him?
Lost Ian.
I think we lost Ian.
Okay, I'll just pick up. I think he had mentioned that I was going to be next. My thanks to him for having me, and Guy, as you had mentioned, well, may fall on deaf ears, unfortunately. From our perspective, from Absolute Storage Management's perspective, I would absolutely echo a lot of what Guy said. We were very fortunate to have already had our online rental program in place and fully operational. So we we hit the ground running in very early March. Saw spikes up to about 50 to 60% of our rental activity coming to us via online, which was fantastic. And that spiked in the major section of when everybody was really locked down. And then that is trailed off as expected, but it's still much that than we were pre-COVID. So I think that's a real blessing in a positive COVID response. That all of us have experienced. And it's just been fantastic. I think for us, and I'm sure it is for the others as well, a major emphasis placed on taking care of our customers and our team members has just been a huge component. We too pulled together a task force that was meeting daily, and then it went on to meet every other day, and now we're at about an every 3 to 4 day cycle, but really focused on meeting the customer where they are, whatever form or format they're the most comfortable in dealing with us and engaging with us. We're trying to meet them where they are, and then taking care of our team members. And as Guy mentioned, it's very localized. Just as storage is as a whole, so is the COVID response. And so adapting, we're seeing that now in Illinois, in Ohio, in Wisconsin, in the Dakotas, as more restrictions get put on place. We're having to be ultra flexible and pivoting there as well. So really taking care of the team has been a huge focus for us. And then on a smaller note, just a little bit of uniqueness, if you will, that Guy didn't mention, I would say is the modified student rental season. So the spring semester, the May timeframe didn't go as many of us thought. It occurred in March in a lot of cases. So adapting to that, a lot of that, benefited from the online rental platform, but adapting to that, getting to the students, getting in contact with them, utilizing different techniques during social media. We obviously have seen the return to school be different here in the fall, and then it's all becoming quite different now with a lot of our schools hoping, trying to figure out how to end their semesters successfully as we go through this next wave. So the modified student rental season has definitely been interesting, and I think we've adapted to it as well as possible and really done a nice job.
Great. Mark?
Yeah. Well, like these guys, I think we did similar things. I think the key thing for us was being able to adapt quickly and to make changes. So we didn't have necessarily one big change that we had done. We were already doing electronic leases and things like that, of course, but lots of little things, self-guided tours, communicating with our team to make sure that we are meeting their needs, because I think just like anything else, the hard part right now is when you walk into a room, you don't know how scared that other person is of COVID, how it's impacted their life. And that obviously went to our team as well. So we were really adaptable just to make sure that they were comfortable, that our customers were comfortable, but being able to make those changes quickly. And Guy, like you mentioned as well, we didn't have a task force. We were the task force. We're a small team in our office, unlike these guys, so we really were able to kind of move quickly. I think one of the more unique things that we did, however, was setting up some video conferencing where we actually had an ongoing video stream throughout all of our properties. And that was really helpful because it kind of helped us become more of a team. We were communicating effectively. At any given time, you could unmute yourself and ask for help or get involved. And I think that's been a really cool, unique thing that's happened to us and that we've kind of pushed into because of this. And it's really resulted in a lot of good team building as well. So, but yeah, I think that was the biggest thing is adaptability and speed, just to make sure that we're staying on it, getting things corrected, getting things set up in the way that we need to. And then making sure that we're listening to both our customers and our team.
Great. And Dale?
Yeah, no, I would, I concur with a lot of the things that are being said. Of course, what Guy alluded to with us being a larger organization, that communication early on through COVID, especially here in Buffalo, New York State, it pretty much got our home office. To this day, we're still not back at our home office. So a lot of things, to go to virtual meetings, navigating through that. And then also, being adaptable to each state, like Guy said, the biggest thing within that was the state of inefficiencies and price gouging laws. I mean, our revenue management team became part of our legal team because you had to coincide that with what's going on the ground with operations. And then you're holding back price increases. I mean, there was a lot of different things that happened within the first few months of COVID that have sort of extended all the way through the fall here that have been really a big challenge. Obviously, very fortunate that, our business as a whole has done very well through the COVID pandemic, but some of these things that we navigate with that were some of the biggest challenges. And then from a third party standpoint and being able to do our business, all you guys know that travel is a big part of what we do. And, I travel at least a week out of every month, if not more, and not having that face-to-face, not being able to visit development sites, not being able to visit new clients in their setting was a challenge. And to have my team be remote and still be as successful as we were during the year, a testament to kind of maybe how we prepared prior to COVID. One of my sales managers is in Indianapolis. I mean, we sort of set ourselves up to be able to kind of work from home, but who would have thought that it would have been, just the normal what we're dealing with now. But I would definitely say what I mentioned about being able to localize your issues by state, by market, and knowing actually what's going on in those markets and then reacting to it from a central level is huge. So that's been the biggest change as a result.
Great. So I can just share from personal experience. We had a large exit back in 2016, and we were kind of scattered with our property. So we actually went to a third-party management platform at that time. We worked with Cubesmart for many years, and it worked out great for us. And I could say personally, I've never been happier to not have direct management during these times. So I'm glad to have you guys like you around to handle the real pain, and the value I think has probably never been higher for a third-party manager. Tell me just a little bit, and I'll let you start this time, Dale, about if you saw a significant uptick in people wanting to offload management, and kind of where the the biggest value propositions you think you made, and what kind of stress points you relieve for people. I think you're on mute still here.
I think definitely, thanks, Ian. A big stress point, obviously, is taking over day-to-day management of someone's business and taking them out of, if you look at, we kind of tie it back to COVID and personnel. I look at it as, a lot of markets, we have multiple stores, we have personnel. We almost have a bench of people. And I think probably, a lot of things that we've heard, because we've seen an uptick of existing owners reaching out for third-party management. And a lot of it is just being able to handle the day-to-day personnel issues that come up, whether it's a pandemic or just in, a regular course of business. But we've seen where that's been a huge help, being able to keep stores open. We've been, deemed an essential business across the U.S. And I think a lot of owners can appreciate the fact that we can keep stores open, and that we can, that they're not dealing with somebody not calling in or them showing up. So from a smaller operator standpoint, I think that's huge just by having the scale. And then obviously, when you tie in, our contact lists right now that we've had well over 2 years, and tying in some new marketing features with that, with the revenue management, I just think that from the standpoint of an owner not having those efficiencies and having teams that can kind of pick them up when they can't get to a store, you were able to do that.
Great. How about you, Scott?
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what Dale said. I think the stress points, really, a lot of them revolve around the health and safety of the team. So the health and safety of the employee, team members, and the customers, and meeting them where they are. So new business coming to us, looking for us to solve some of those, looking for the infrastructure, as Dale mentioned, the call centers, the dealing with the local jurisdictions and figuring out price gouging and other requirements. I think one perhaps unique thing is collections, recognizing that collections take on a whole different pattern, if you will. I believe we all postponed auction for a while and tried to figure out ways to work with the customers in a different manner. And so having that expertise, having that ability to flex, having those resources of the third-party management company, I think really came into play for a lot of our clients and helped us attract new ones as well.
Great. Mark, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, I echo what these guys say. I think it's all about relationships, and relationships with these owners is more important than ever. And you want to care about their asset as much as they do. And I think that's the big thing. It's like you have someone to call, someone to touch base with to make sure that you feel like things are going well despite the circumstances that are happening. So it's obviously been a unique year in 2020, and I think a lot of owners are probably happy that they have third-party management in place. And I know it's a little bit more competitive out there, and obviously there's some consolidation happening, but I think more and more you're probably going to see that just because of the relief that you feel and the relationships, knowing that you're in good hands, really.
Right. Guy, I think we covered a lot of the ground there, but anything you think would be helpful to add?
The only thing I would say is it's been somewhat surprising to me how we've continued to grow, and the other guys on the panel and public companies, you see the quarterly earnings results every quarter, and most report on how many stores they've added to the platform. So even during COVID, but the conversations have been different, where normally it's, tell me about your revenue management platform, tell me about your digital marketing and your sophistication. Now it's, how are you addressing auctions during COVID? Are you doing existing customer rate increases? So it's definitely changed, but the interest level is like it has been for several years.
Yeah, it's the one thing that we try to talk about a lot is obviously occupancy doesn't pay any bills, right? So revenue management was, I think, one of the key components of our success. Mark, I'll start with you. Maybe talk a little bit about kind of the evolution of where you kind of started when COVID began and where you are now, where you see it heading as far as revenue management, as far as rate increases for existing tenants and existing street rates and collections. Maybe just talk a little bit about the performance of really trying to manage that revenue. I'll let you start.
Yeah, sure. It's definitely been interesting. I mean, looking at the past of the way things have been done with revenue management happening at the store level, and then evolving into house and different things like that. Obviously, third-party management companies have their own revenue management systems. I think the big thing is kind of the art and the science of making sure that revenue management is working. I think we've all got experience and kind of that gut feeling of knowing how to operate properties effectively, what's working, what's not in our markets. But then you look at the other side, which just brings a full level of just science, right? Rate scientists that are doing everything and they can predict it all. So I think there's this really beautiful combination of where you can still utilize the gut feeling and kind of drive the car, so to speak, but have the machine or the science that you can actually do it. I mean, we kind of talk about it like it's NASCAR. I mean, all the NASCARs are pretty much the same, but the driver makes a difference. And I think at the end of the day, it's a logics-based kind of system. Rate management doesn't have to be super complicated. I think sometimes you make it a little too complicated, but each property has its own unique taste of what works, what doesn't. And so really just understanding the market is where I think, but I think, overall it's going to get smarter and smarter. And I think there's only a matter of time before, rates go online at Google. And just like you look for airplanes or hotels, you're going to see the rates on the line, location based. And so it's going to get more and more competitive, and we've got to get smarter. And I think years ago when I first started, I was just drastically surprised about how slow and how old-fashioned things were. But I'm really encouraged to see the way things are going now. And I think it's only a matter of time before anyone that's still doing it the old-fashioned way, accepts that, hey, there's at some point grocery stores, restaurants, hotels, airlines, all of them stop doing it in a manually process and more educated, science to it. But not losing it. So that's kind of my thing.
So, just, I mean, if everybody, when we go through this question here, maybe are you using any platform or software to help with pricing other than just the software?
So right now we're exploring a couple. We have been. We're still doing it a lot of times in-house. We've got our own systems in place, but we're not connected full on with rate management system yet. I do think it's something that's it's going to happen sooner than later, though. So again, hopefully the goal is that we can still drive the machine and not just rely on the machine. I think that's the big part for us.
Great. And Dale, how about your experience with Life?
Yeah, with Life Storage, obviously we've got a revenue management team. We sort of revolutionized it. We brought in a data scientist with a good background in looking at data and how to utilize that data, from what we have internally, and then obviously scraping it from different sources within the industry, which are more and more readily available. I know, if you look back, I've been in the industry 10 years. I think when I started, the ability to get data pricing was really scarce 10 years ago. So it's been nice to be able to have groups that are coming in, being a little more competitive with getting us that information. And our team is utilizing that. I think even in the last year and a half, maybe last year, competitor data is so important to derive pricing. I mean, we see it obviously from a third-party standpoint with doing performas and looking at developments and where rates are when you're doing a performa for a development property to when the store opens, new supply, putting constraints on where pricing is. You've got larger players that may be able to ride out initial pricing that's 30-40% below what we thought the market was going to be. So we've really kind of honed in on looking at that competitor data, along with other factors that can drive, with occupancy, obviously, is always going to be a driving factor to where you're pricing your stores. But we've seen a lot more so with the new properties that we're bringing on, and we've actually developed an internal team called Early Life, which really focuses on marketing one, and then also revenue management on the other side, working with our owners to devise a strategy that's going to help them succeed. I think the day-to-day revenue management of a stabilized property is definitely different than what you see with a lease-up property, and the market conditions, the supply that's in that market, competing with. And so we've really put a focus on it. We've kind of taken it to the next level outside of just our revenue management team by adding in this group that is focused on those types of situations. So I would say those are some things that we're doing from a revenue management standpoint. And again, you might want to check us out to see what we're doing. We have a great presentation on our revenue management. And like Mark said, you don't want to get it too complicated, because you can tend to do that, and you don't want to have it too automated that it kind of just goes off on its own. So we've kind of found a good balance between our analysts that handle revenue management and then our own internal system, which is ours, that was created in-house and is out transformed every day with these changing conditions.
Great. And Scott, I believe you guys are utilizing platform, correct? You guys are.
Yes. Yeah, we are. We have recently, back in January, partnered with Veritech and have rolled that out to a number of our locations. We too are trying to find the balance with the focus on the science, if you will, behind it, and then the driver, to Mark's analogy of it. And we still put quite a bit of emphasis in the local focus. It's understanding that particular property, how it fits in with its competitors, what makes it unique, what are its differentiators. And so we still have our property managers and our regional managers involved in a very intimate way with our revenue management team here to set those prices and to understand who truly are your competitors. Because as a lot of these systems work, if you don't have the competitive set right, you're putting in bad data, and you're more likely to get bad data out. So we put quite a bit of emphasis on that. We're looking we're managing web rates, we're managing on short-term discounts, current tenant rates and street rates through the system, and trying to find that blend. Because it's great to have a nice web rate, but if it takes an additional discount and you're missing that piece, then you're still missing the rental, or vice versa. So these things work in concert, and so we're trying to find that blend.
Great. How about you, Guy?
Yeah, so Cubesmart's revenue management system is proprietary. We developed it ourselves, and we do still include our district managers and some of the on-the-ground information when setting prices. But we have a team of pricing analysts as well at our home office. But the system actually creates the rates and the rate changes, and it's been interesting. I mean, we are the public companies we know are at all-time high occupancies, and we heard in an earlier panel that David was a moderator on, that the challenge in the industry is rent rate. The lease ups have gone very well in most every new development store. Rent rates have been a bit of a challenge, and not saying that we would in any way take advantage of a pandemic situation, but it's just a matter of supply and demand. With full occupancies, rent rates have gone up across the country from what we've seen, and we're glad to see that. We can't predict the future, what's going to happen as we move on from the pandemic, and how will that affect occupancies and rent rates. We don't know that, but it's been a very different year, and the revenue management systems have had to somewhat modify just to react in a way that's revenue optimal.
So just by a show of hands, everybody, if anybody raise their hand, if you are actually not currently proceeding with auctions, anybody holding on auctions at this point? No? Okay. And then just curious, if anybody would like to share any experience, any states any of you guys are located in where I know there's been some movement by some legislators to come in and try to reduce the ability for us to auction and to sell units. Anybody having an experience anywhere that they'd like to share? Anything? Anyone? No? Okay, good. Well, that's good to know. So what would you say, what's the biggest advantage you're finding when you're talking to clients, you're trying to tell them why they should be using a third-party management company? What do you think is the single greatest advantage you provide? Maybe Guy, why don't you share with us what you think?
Sure. And I mentioned earlier, we've always touted our revenue management and our digital presence and capabilities and our size, but there are other reasons. Auditable accounting practices and financials and reporting that is available to owners that never in the past have they been able to access. The data that several folks have mentioned that we're able to share. All these are so valuable. We mentioned the ability to pivot quickly and to know what to do, and to have a team of experienced experts in each area of the platform. So even little things like, how do you implement what you just mentioned, turning auctions on and off, controlling existing customer rate increases, things like signage at the stores, required masks, and only one customer in the office at a time. Implementing those types of things are so important, especially in today's age. And a management platform like any of the ones represented on this call or the others, that's what we do. That's our business. And more the mom and pop or the single owner is struggling to keep up with all of these things, the complicated, sophisticated aspects of the business, and even the more simple things that we have to do.
Scott?
I agree with all the points that Guy made. I think the reason that we all bring that the client then and the owner has access to are just tremendous. And being able to adapt through COVID. I think one of the things we personally do extremely well is being extremely flexible extremely local, property driven. And we had to get that way very quickly through COVID as well, and managed to find those those success points and those sorts of things. Competing on a marketing scale is extremely important, and especially as the customer changes how they find you. There's a lot less commuting going on nowadays, so there's a lot less drive-by activity, if you will. So marketing is even more important perhaps than it ever was before, and it was already quite important. The other thing that we're really focusing on, especially with COVID, and it relates to third-party management and how we're able to pull this off, is looking at office hours, looking at staffing in a whole new light. And so by having mass and scale in markets, you're able to get creative. You're able to save costs ultimately from a payroll perspective, make the property that much more profitable for the client, because we have overlap in that market, and we're able to share resources in that way and get creative with hours, utilizing online rentals and those sorts of things. And so that's what a management company of size and scale brings to the table that others have trouble replicating.
Great. And Dale?
I would kind of take off from what Scott mentioned. I had kind of just on here expense control. I mean, from a standpoint of having so many stores, we are always looking at how can we, increase the bottom line through reducing expenses. Not just, we've talked about growing revenue, we talked about revenue management, but from a standpoint of personnel, being creative with schedules, like Scott said, closing on days when you're not as busy. I mean, when your stores are in the mid 90s in occupancy, you need to be open 7 days a week. And is Sunday the best day to close? It may not always be the case. So we'll look at that. I mean, that's something that we can look from a high level and sort of put down and do it store by store. I mean, with the internet, and local search, store hours can be pretty much a store by store initiative. You want to be consistent, but you're also allowed that flexibility. And the other thing would be with that we've taken a real big look at, concerning all expenses, but your R&M, your repairs and maintenance. How can we, as a company, we've built up a maintenance tech program that allows us to sort of bring R&M in-house to a certain extent in certain markets. And we're able to kind of save some costs of going out and getting vendors and bringing that to where we have folks that can roam and take care of our properties and take care of those things that are sort of borderline between what the staff can take care of, where it's not a liability issue, to where you can have somebody that can actually come in and change out doors, change out light bulbs, do your maintenance on your HVAC, and kind of keep your properties up without the expense and loss of control by having an outside vendor. So I think from that standpoint, that's a big benefit that we can provide that a smaller owner with few stores can't do that in the scale that we can. We can have somebody that's handling 20, 30 stores from a maintenance standpoint. So, and then opening up new channels for our customers. Our Warehouse Anywhere division, which focuses on national accounts and getting larger corporations to use storage throughout the U.S. And we have partner obviously with Cubesmart and all the different groups, but also we've taken an initiative to work along the last mile and the Amazon effect of retail and using storage as a way to do that. So we're looking outside of maybe the box on some things and trying some other things that owners on their own wouldn't be able to do because they just don't have the scale or the manpower.
Okay. So first, I want to make sure everybody knows if you have a question, please type it in the panel on the side. We've got about 10 minutes left on the panel discussion, so please let me know if there's anything you'd like to ask the panel. But one trend that I've been noticing a lot is as storage is becoming more and more popular, more money flowing into our space, competition becoming fierce. people are making decisions that, probably a lot of us on this call right here would probably question what the heck is going on. How do you handle that? What do you, first of all, I guess, first part would be, what are you guys seeing? Are you seeing just the most insanely ill-conceived projects, like more than you've ever seen? And then how do you handle that when they come to you as a client? Anybody want to jump in? No, you got to walk the tight line here. But,
I will. I'll just comment on that, Ian. What's when you think about Cubesmart and the way we interact with our owners, and you know this because of our past relationship, is though we're a big company and we do have to control it, it's a rather big ship and it's hard to just make small little changes. We are very respectful and we listen and try to work with our owners to create a winning solution, whatever the situation is. We're not the big machine that it's either our way or the highway. We've been able to keep that. It's our DNA. But I would say that owners come to us with different ideas. They want to do some different things. They want to create different business models. They want to do different promotions. And I think it'd be wrong to be closed-minded. And we have a team in revenue management, marketing, and operations that are open to some of the different ideas. And we'll test things. We test things. We exhaust testing, really, anything we do, anything we roll out. It's been so well tested. But we also know what we're good at and what we're not good at. And I'll get a phone call on occasion to run a full 100% RV boat business. And I'll just say, that's not what we do. That's not what we're experts at. We can rent some spaces behind your building, a small 20, 30, space, parking spaces, but we're not the experts on doing that type of business. So we know what we're good at. We listen to the owners. We make changes based on some of their requests. Some of the owners we've worked with have more experience than I do in the business. They've been doing it for years and years, and so we value that. But we don't get into the game of trying too many new things that we're not experts at. We just want to do what we do well.
Great. Anyone else like to?
Yeah, I would echo what Guy said. I would say from a standpoint of if somebody comes to us with a property or they're in a market or location that is going to be successful, we're honest with them. And I think and a lot of times we built relationships around, I guess that openness and us being able to be real transparent about how we feel about a property. And we have a lot of ownership groups, as Guy probably does too, that come to them and they want an opinion. You're not going to give them a full feasibility study or anything of that nature, but if we can tell pretty quickly if a site is going to be successful. And we're able to forge relationships with our clients, have them walk away from something that would probably be a nightmare for them. So fortunately, being in the business for a number of years now, we've been able to do that. So I think from that standpoint, Ian, we're not say the yes men all the time, and sometimes we've lost business because of it. But for the most part, it's if we believe in it, we're gonna put our full efforts towards it. You get into the more, I guess, niche type projects. They can be consuming, and it's just really not what we do either. So I agree with Guy on that. You got to be careful.
Good. So we have another 5 minutes here. I'm assuming there's plenty of people who are sitting here watching right now. Some people use third parties. Some people are part of a third party company, but others are most likely genuinely here because they want to figure out if it's something they should be doing. Maybe just each take about a minute as we wrap up here. Maybe just tell a little bit about kind of how you work, why you do it, how you get started, and maybe for example, it's important to note that when we made the decision to go to third party after managing ourselves for many, many years, we just felt that we were too disparate and we felt, well, there's certain things we knew that by having a personal touch instead of using a larger company, we might be able to do better. But in the scheme of things, we felt we made the decision that overall our properties would perform better with third-party management company and relieve a lot of headaches. So maybe each take a minute. We can start with Scott. Maybe talk a little bit about kind of what you tell people, how you get started, and what if you feel comfortable, maybe sharing kind of some of the dynamics of what or how you differentiate or how you get started.
Yeah, we started Absolute about 18 years ago. Michael Hall, Matt Bailey, and myself. And I think part of the biggest component that we bring to our clients is the relationship and the flexibility and the adaptiveness to the project that they bring and continuing the focus on the local market. We continue to make ourselves available to each of our clients. I actively manage the day-to-day operations of the management company, and Michael and Matt continue to look for investment opportunities and development and acquisition opportunities. And we're constantly on a day-to-day basis advising clients, as we were just in the previous question, giving them honest feedback on mix. Mix is still and always will be one of the most important components of your new development, is getting that right. So building that relationship and being in touch at every stage of the game and being available, I think is one of the biggest components that we bring.
Right. And how many
140 locations in the central and south and southeast regions of the U.S.
Great. And Mark, tell us a little bit about kind of your philosophy.
Sure.
And
I think every owner's got to look at the outcome they want. You got to ask the right questions. They talked about it earlier. Just ask good questions. Figure out what's important to you. I mean, I've met with owners who want to be involved in every single decision, and I've met with owners that don't want to hear from you, or you don't know for a long time, and hands off. So I think that every operator brings a different dynamic to the table. I think relationship is key. Obviously, you want to work with people that you like. Just like you want your employees to be happy, you want the owners to be happy, the relationship to be happy, and really you want to look for that long-term relationship. I don't think this is something that you want to jump from place to place to place. I mean, it takes a lot of legwork to get things onboarded. It takes things to get offboarded. And it's not cheap, right?
It's not cheap.
Do you want to change your doors? Do you want to change your sign? Do you like the color orange? Do you like the color green? I mean, it's right. So it's all these questions. And that comes with staff changes. That comes with, the damage of going online and offline and switching locations. And so there's lots of risk reward with that. But I think ultimately you just really need to think about, reverse engineer from what you want. What do you want it to look like, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? We took over a site that was a legacy store, older couple, husband died, wife's keeping it, and it's one of those things. For her, it was relationship based. It was just like, I want to continue this legacy in a good way. Don't want to change the name. Don't want to do this. And we were able to meet that need. Not everyone's able to. So I think that's really the biggest thing. You gotta be forward, looking ahead where you want to be, and then reverse engineer and find the fit, because these guys obviously operate all over the place. We're obviously a little bit small, well, much smaller. Kind of fangirling here with all these big guys here, but we can't meet every need. But it's important for us to have that relationship and make sure it's a win-win for everyone. So that'd be my kind of advice for this one.
Great. And Dale?
Yeah, I think it all starts with, like Scott and Mark said, it's all about the relationship. I mean, what we try to do is we try to put and know that have our owners back, that we've got their best interests at heart. We do that through communication. There's always challenges. Every day there's challenges. We're problem solvers. All of us are. And how do you respond to it? What's your, how quickly do you get back to somebody? How do they, you've got to impress upon people that they know that you are working on their store and that it's important to us as a company as it is to them. We're running businesses. I've got a couple of great sales managers with Eric Carlson and Chuck Dodge who really understand the sales process of being transparent up front and working through that with somebody that we are taking over your business. And it's probably the hardest sales process in any industry, because it is, you're actually, you're going to run their business. You're not selling them something and walking away. And then the next day you're on selling something different. I mean, it's a constant battle. And then having that communication and response time that we deliver in the beginning of the sale process, and then adding in, our analysts, Keith Fields, who does a great job with performas, and then taking it to our owner relation managers group that's run by Jack Rogers, who's been in the industry almost 30 years, and taking care of our clients is the biggest part of it. And I would say the relationship and having a trusting relationship is key to it. We have all the internal resources with revenue management, marketing. And we're going to put everything we have towards the stores. But I really think that response time and communication is something that hopefully as we grow, we don't lose. It's something that I've fought for and want as a part of our company, that we don't lose that. And Guy can probably tell you from their growth pattern that it's not easy to hang on to. And where do you let that go? And so that's where we put it at the heart of that, is that relationship and letting them know that we understand we're running their business.
All right, Guy, take us home. We're at the end here.
So once again, I appreciate being invited to participate, and being on with Dale, Mark, and Scott is actually a privilege, because some of the nicest and smartest guys in our industry. And just quickly, a little bit of an advertisement for Cubesmart. You can go to the sponsor showcase button on your screen and click on it, and you can click on Cubesmart and fill in your name and information, and someone from my team will contact you if you're interested in learning more about third-party management. It's not for everyone. There's some really successful owner-operators out there, mom and pops, that do a great job, and they should probably continue doing that. But we can help a lot of folks. So, Ian, thank you once again for allowing us to do this.
Great, appreciate it. Listen, thank you, everyone. As long, I believe there's information for all the companies on our site, and do your homework and feel free to reach out to any of us with any questions. And thank you all for joining, and thank you guys.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody.